Good morning, all of you. In today's session, we are going to start with the 10th standard chemistry and physics. Unit 12, carbon and its a compound, series number 7 is going to be discussed. In the earlier session, we completed about what is carbon, what is its valency, electronegativity of the carbon atom, the concept of hybridization with relevant to sp3, sp2, sp hybridization of carbon and its compounds, and what is meant by allotropy, what kind of amorphous as well as crystalline allotropic forms are available, and even nanoscale materials available for the carbon and its compounds. All those topics extensively studied in the earlier sessions. In addition to all this, we completed Unit 1 to Unit 11, entire detailed explanation available on the channel called the World of Competitive Chemistry. Now we entered into series number 7, where is a versatile nature of carbon is going to be discussed. What kind of compounds are able to generate it, and what is the origin of carbon. So, and it's a compounds. So that kind of, so its origin to exploration, those topics are going to be discussed now. Let us see versatile nature of the carbon. Let us know about the carbon and its related compounds. So most probably 18th century is the inception for the scientist in order to differentiate, in order to explore the compounds in general. So here earlier, so before this 18th century also, there is a scope for the adventure of new compounds, but 18th century onwards, compound identification, compound exploration was on the faster pace, right? So here the compounds, not only the carbon, but neither compounds also explored in a much faster pace from this 18th century onwards. So here some of the important facts which are related with the carbon and its compounds. First is about graphene. Graphene is the compound which is denoted as a new wonder material. So it is a nanoscale material, and a three-dimensional illustration is provided here. It is a continuous extended hexagonal structure. A sheet type of graphene is provided here. And if you observe its weight of the substance, the piece of graphene is a aerogel weighing only 0.16 milligrams. So here 0.16 milligrams is the infinitesimal weight, but occupying the larger space here. Per cubic centimeter is placed on the flower. So these flower petals are able to bear the weight of this one, being it is a light in weight substance. So here, being it is a nano-sized particle and having extremely low weight, but extended applications are available for these graphene type of materials, right? So here, as it is name indicates, graphene is extracted from graphite. So origin of this graphene will be a graphite itself, and this material further subjected to nanoscale compression or top-down or bottom-up sol gel methods. Different methods are available for nano-sized material synthesis. So by adopting suitable method for synthesis, graphite is now transformed into the graphene kind of material. So this is the also the material made up of carbon at a nanoscale. And let us see what kind of comparison we can draw. For a thickness of 1 millimeter of graphite, so if you go with 1 millimeter of graphite, so in that 1 millimeter of graphite, there is a 3 million layers of graphenes are occupying in that space. So if you go with 1 millimeter of graphite, within the shortest piece of this graphite, 3 million layers of these graphene are available, being it is a nano-sized material, smaller in nature, but having wide range of applications. So wide, more number of species are available in the smaller space. That extent of tiny particle it will be. So here nanoscale is a 1 billionth of the meter, extremely smaller in the size, higher the surface region, greater the area of applications for these kind of compounds. So the carbons are perfectly distributed in the hexagonal honeycomb formed only 0.3 nanometers thickness. Thickness of this layer will be 0.3 nanometers only. That is extremely less. So the thickness can't be observed under normal microscope. Ultra microscope is required in order to observe such a kind of nanoscale particles. Nanoscale, obviously, it will be a 1 billion. Here, so many kind of nanoscale particles are available, and 1 mm of graphite is exactly similar to that of 3 million layers of these graphene. 1 million is nothing but 10 lakhs. So this extent of occupation is there within the small space. Large extent of graphene materials are occupied, so that they are having larger surface region. So wide range of applications are possible for these nanomaterials. And let us compare its strength and conductivity properties with reference to the bulk materials. Graphene conducts electricity better than copper. So being copper is widely applied material for the conduction of current in general, domestic and industrial purpose. Copper is the generally used material for the conduction of current. So here the conduction of this graphene is extremely greater when compared to this copper as well. So even though copper is widely applied, but here graphene, new emerged material, having more efficiency when compared to this copper. And let us see the strength of this. Being it is a smaller nano-sized particle, but having extremely larger strength, its strength compared to the steel. Being the steel is very strong material, it can be applied in the constructional purpose and also in the manufacturing of so many materials, machines, and the traveling goods. And also domestic operations we are applying. But here nano-sized graphene is having the 200 times strength when compared to this steel also. But synthesis of this material is not in the bulk quantity. That's the reason why it is not having that extent of application. It is the area of emerging region. So in the it may be extended, it may be explored and may be adopted for the wide range of applications. As of now, we are going to compare its strength as well as conductivity properties. And another thing is J.J. Berzelius named the compound that derived from the living organisms as an organic compound. So by this, we completed the concept of graphene. Graphene is a nano-sized material. This is extracted from the graphite and is converted into nano-sized particle by the suitable nanoscale synthesis process. And 1 mm of graphite is exactly equals to 3 million layers of graphene. That extremely smaller particle it will be, but when you go with the comparison of its strength, extremely large. So now we are going to see what is the versatile nature of the carbon, how extent it will be important. So first emphasis about the carbon and its related compounds were given by this J.J. Berzelius in 1807. Already we just studied that 18th century is the foundation for the extensive study about the various materials which are available in the nature. So Berzelius first assumed that all the living organisms composed of carbon, all non-living organisms are composed of other than carbon called inorganic compounds. So the compound extracted from organic or living organisms are denoted as organic compounds, and non-organic compounds are nothing but non-living organisms are used to give this non-organic compound. This is the first laid derivation for organic and inorganic compounds. So entire periodic table can be categorized into organic compounds, inorganic compounds, transition metals, intertransition metals, like that, right? So all organic compounds are derived from the living organism according to this J.J. Berzelius. We are not supposed to deny his concept, but so you can observe. So if you go with the living organisms, all are composed of carbon and its compounds only. So that is obeying, but there is a limitation. But this emphasis what laid by the Berzelius not at all completely wrong. We have to accept, but not 100%. Okay, so here living organisms are obviously composed of organic compounds, so that he categorized them into organic. All non-living organisms may not be considered as inorganic. Some extent of materials may be of organic as well, right? So this kind of classification first given by first of all we have to appreciate, because there is a foundation. So based on this foundation only further research, always research is never ended process. Always there is exploration, new inventions will be added, but foundation is also important. So in the same manner, Berzelius gave the emphasis how the organic compounds are derived. So here he felt like this, but there is a certain exploration got carried in the next century or next time of their research. He thought that organic compounds would be prepared from the living organisms only. and that is the vital force. Whatever we are having, we are doing the activities, all are coming from that carbon only, and that is required for the essence of life. So these carbon compounds only giving the vital force in order to survive. So he felt in that manner, as this force is absent outside the living body, so that they are called as organic compounds and could not be synthesized in the laboratory. And what he felt is all the organic compounds are present in the living things only, and that carbon only responsible for all the activities what we are doing. And if that carbon is not there, and that may not be considered as organic. And what he felt, organic compounds only present in living but not able to synthesize in the laboratory. So laboratory synthesis is impossible, he felt. So in accordance with his own experiments, he felt in that manner. But later what happened, Frederick Wöhler in 1828, he produced the organic compound urea by the accidental manner. So it is regarded as the first organic compound which is synthesized in the laboratory. So it got synthesized from taking starting material called ammonium cyanide, and it is widely applied nutrient for the plant growth and crop growth. So it is primarily made up of nitrogen. Nitrogen is very essential for the plant growth, being it is used for the synthesis of proteins. Proteins are very essential for the growth of any living organism. That's the reason why here urea first laboratory synthesis was carried by the scientist called Frederick Wöhler in 1828. But it is also not in the planned manner. He is expecting to synthesize some other compound. So that is isomerized into the compound called urea. Nowadays, this urea is finding wide range of applications in the agricultural fields, right? So here industrial scale of synthesis is possible, and it is an essential nutrient, essential fertilizer to nourish the plant materials. Then there is an equation for this urea synthesis. Ammonium cyanide, when taken, ammonium cyanide NH4 plus and NCO minus, this is a compound. Upon heating, it got isomerized. Simply, both are made up of same number of nitrogens, carbons, and oxygens, hydrogens, but the arrangement of atoms are slightly varied. Here, ammonium cyanide will be a inorganic type of compound because it is basically composed of nitrogen, and this is regarded as inorganic compound. Upon heating, it turned into organic compound called urea, where we have amino functional groups and a ketonic functional group over here. This is considered as an organic compound, which is the first synthesized laboratory organic compound made by this Frederick Wöhler. It inspired many other chemists, and they were successful to prepare so-called organic compounds, methane, acetic acid in the laboratory. The simplest molecule called acetic acid. Acetic acid is very essential. Vinegar we are using at alternate for the acid citrus. So here that is also synthesized in the laboratory. And methane marsh gas is also, because it is the fundamental hydrocarbon. So this was also synthesized. So these are the compounds. So here synthesis of urea paved the way in order to synthesize so many kind of organic compounds in the laboratory. Later on, bountiful compounds of organic. So nowadays, millions of compounds are coming out from the laboratories, and they are finding prominent applications in various fields, especially in the pharmaceutical industries as well as in a polymer sector. Organic compounds are most vital. Along with these industrial applications, you can find photochemical applications. You can find that these organic compounds are having material chemistry applications also. So many ways we are using these synthesized molecules. So here synthesis of urea, that gave the emphasis, inspiration for the synthesis of lot of organic compounds in the future research. So here organic compounds. So there is an assumption. So organic compounds and carbon containing compounds, whether both are same or different. So here entire periodic table, here organic compounds are regarded as a carbon and its related compounds. That may be hydrocarbon, that may be carbonyl compound, that may be carboxylic acid, that may be cyano compound, that may be aldehyde, ketone, acid compounds. so many kind of bunch of compounds available, carbon containing polymers also there, so many kind of carbon containing compounds are available. All these are collectively regarded as a organic compounds. The materials which are made up of carbon and it's related, that may be in contact with hydrogen, that may be in contact with oxygen, that may be in contact with sulfur, nitrogen, whatever. But carbon and its related surrounding all the compounds are collectively denoted as organic compounds. They are defined as organic compounds and the compounds of carbon. Therefore, organic chemistry is totally allotted to the carbon compounds only. So, carbon composed compounds are regarded as organic compounds. There are so many kind of functional groups that are available, which we already know. Hydrocarbons are the part of this one. Cyano containing compounds are there. Carboxylic acids are there. Aldehydes, ketones, acids are there. Acid chlorides, amides, amines, hydroxy compounds are there. So many ester compounds are there. Acyl chlorides are there. So many compounds all are the part of this organic chemistry. Now, we have to know exclusively about the scientist who paved the way for the laboratory synthesis of organic compounds, Friedrich Wöhler. About the scientist we are going to study now. So Friedrich Wöhler is a German chemist who was the student of Berzelius. Berzelius, just now we studied about even Berzelius also. So Berzelius is the first scientist who kept his attention on the organic compounds. He only first gave the static bifurcation between the organic and inorganic compounds. So here, this Berzelius student is this Friedrich Wöhler, and attempting to prepare the ammonium cyanate. His intention is to synthesize the ammonium cyanate by taking the starting material silver cyanate and ammonium chloride. So here he mixed up these two components, and he wanted to synthesize ammonium cyanate as the starting material or expected product, but accidentally he synthesized urea in 1828. So many societal useful materials are synthesized in the accidental way only. Even penicillin is also synthesized in the same manner. Here also urea, right? This was the first organic synthesis and shattered the vitalism theory, right? He expected to synthesize this ammonium cyanate, but upon strong heating, what happened? This rearranged into a material called a urea. Wöhler pursued the matter further and discovered the urea and ammonium cyanide had the same chemical properties, same chemical formula. So chemical formula for these two remains the same. So here urea is composed of NH2, C double bond O NH2. Ammonium cyanide is composed of NH4 plus, C double bond O double bond N minus. So in both the compounds, carbon is 1, hydrogens are 4, nitrogens are 2, oxygen is 1. Empirical formula remains same, CH4N2O. Hence, we can say urea and ammonium cyanate. Here they gave the emphasis about this isomerism. The concept isomerism is also used to explain the existence of two different compounds with the similar molecular formula. So even similar molecular formula is there, both are having entirely different properties, that purely because of arrangement of atoms. This was the early discovery of isomerism, since urea has the formula CONH2 taken twice and ammonium cyanide having NH4CNO. Arrangement is entirely different, structure is entirely different. That's why their properties also different. Even molecular formula composition is same. Allotting completely one special branch of chemistry to the compounds only to one element, is it justified when there is so many elements and their compounds, but not why any special branches? So here carbon containing compounds are regarded as organic chemistry. Can we justify this entire branch of chemistry is dedicated to only one element? Is it correct or not? So we will justify in the next session. So here you can see any acidic compounds which are available in the nature or are made up of carboxylic acids. Here citrus fruits are the part of these long chain carboxylic acids, and hydroxy compounds are used in the fermentation process and gives rise to these liquid compounds. And next is about esters. Being esters, all are having fruity smell, and the fruits are composed of these, pineapple and fruits are composed of these esters. And next, these almonds are made up of aldehydes, and strawberry are made up of ketonic compounds. ketonic compounds will be there. So this is a kind of existence of these organic compounds in the nature. So many compounds are available. So we will discuss about this justification regarding the branch of chemistry for the carbon and its compounds in the next session. Hope this session will be helpful for your preparation. In this session, we discussed about what is graphene, and though it is a nano-sized material, how extent it will be stronger. And next is about the concept of versatility of the carbon and its related compounds. What is the origin of carbon, and how that carbon of natural origin and transferred into a synthetic origin and synthesis in the laboratory. These topics were covered in today's session. Hope this will helpful for your preparation. Thank you very much for your consistent listening. Thank you, one and all.